All right, let's look at our second example, and here is what the multi-view looks like of this object. We've got our top view, our front view, and our side view. In this case, in 3 dimensions, what this looks like is kind of a popping up or a high block in the back. All right, you can see that here. And then a big section in the front that is a triangular shape. All right, so this is the top of that triangle right here. And then we can see this is the tall side panel, kind of like an A-frame house or something, right? And we are using these angles. We've got the azimuth, again, 135 degrees from north. We're keeping it simple for these first couple exercises, right? So it's coming in this direction. And then our altitude is 45 degrees. Again, that's going to rotate up from the horizon in either side. So let's start out with the top view, right? And that's the procedure. And so we're going to, from each important point here, cast a guideline in the azimuth direction. Okay. And as usual, we don't know their length yet, right? So let's work with the elevation. Since the shadows are going in that direction, we need this angle, not the other one, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and copy this one over to all of our important points in the vertical direction. And that's here, here, and here. Let me make sure that those extend all the way to my ground line. Looks like they do. Yeah? Yeah, they do. Okay. All right. So let's work with this big block first. One of the ways that you can cast shadows is just to kind of do piece by piece and then add them together in the end. So let's work with the kind of block in the back first. It's this high, so I'm going to cast a guideline here. Oops, I'm using the wrong layer. So I'm going to cast a guideline here, and then this one from the end of that. All right, and so we're going to have from this point here, the shadow is going to come back, it's going to go up, it's going to go over, and over here. So let me outline that using the shadow borders layer. So start from here, it's going to go up, up this way, over, and connect back to our block, and just finishing out that polyline. All right, so that's the shadow from that block. So next, let's do kind of this triangular piece in front. I'm just going to call it like this A-frame piece. It's got a ridge right here. And the interesting thing about this is we can kind of trace this triangle and then trace another triangle of shadow and then connect them together. So let's work on the front face. We know that the shadow is going to connect right here at this, right here, okay? And then it's going to go up to a shadow at the peak, which is going to hit here. Oops, sorry, that needs to be a guideline. Okay, so we know that it starts from this point, and then it's going to come up to where that peak lands. Okay, and then interestingly, the shadow of this triangular piece, just this front face, is going to connect back to that corner. Okay, so if this were like just this triangle plane standing here with nothing else, it would cast this shadow. Now let's look at this piece right here. Again, it's a triangular plane. It's just further back in space. All right, and so the shadow would go, it would start here, it would come back to here, and it would end there. All right, notice those are the same angles. They should be. Okay. All right, so if we just had this A-frame piece, here's what the shadow would look like. Let me fill it in so you can see. All right, But it's not going to do that because we're going to see the top of that block behind it. So let me undo that. So instead, we're going to get like a compound shadow. It's going to have this angled piece, but then mostly what we're going to see is the shadow of the block. I'm going to outline that for you. All right, it's going to start here, connect, connect. All right. And so this is what that shadow is going to look like. Okay. But we're not quite done. We're also going to get shade on this entire face because look at this shadow is just completely covering it. So that is right here. And so you could fill that in entirely, or if you are interested in, it might look a little bit different. So let's go ahead and maybe color it differently in our example here. All right, that's what that shadow is going to look like. Now let's take a look at the elevations. This right side elevation, I don't think we're going to get any shadow. That looks like entirely in the sun. But what about this front one? It looks like we're going to get a little triangle of shadow right here, cast, that's right along here, all right, cast by this A-frame piece on the block. So let me go ahead and add that to our drawing. And here is our completed shadow drawing. We've got shadows on the plan view, and we've got shadows on the elevation view. All right, let's move on to the third problem in the homework set. And here's what it looks like on the page. We've got a top view, we've got a front view, we've got a side view. And what we've got kind of here is a flat base piece, right? We've got a part in the back that pops up, all right? And then this piece right here fills in the middle, just kind of a block in the center here. So this is a void right there, but this is a block, all right? All right, moving over to our sun angles, we've got a azimuth of negative 120 degrees from north. Let's go take a look at our sun angle diagram, solar diagram. Here we have here's north. We've been going in the positive direction. This time we're going to go in the negative direction to negative 120. All right, so that's the angle that we want. And drawing with your manual tools, you are going to use a 30-degree angle from the horizontal. All right. So coming back to our example here, we are also, and let's see, remember that the sun is coming in from that angle to our object or to our site. Okay. Also, we have an altitude. It's a much lower altitude, very low. Okay. So it's this is probably a winter scene. And so it's 30 degrees from the horizon. So from the horizontal line up, we're going to measure up an angle of 30 degrees, or in equally valid from this side. All right, now we've got the problem. Let's get started. The first step, as always, is to cast guidelines from every important part of your plan view or your top view using the azimuth angle. All right, and so remember we're going to go this way. Our shadow is going to go up and to the right instead of to the left. All right. And then now we have our direction of our shadow, but how far does it go? We don't know. So let's start working with that elevation. And because our shadow is going this direction, we're going to use this angle, all right, because it's going to, from this front elevation, it's going to fall over to the right. So let me cast those guidelines from all important points in the front elevation, including these lower ones and these higher ones. All right. So just like before, when we cast the shadow of different parts of the object, I'm going to kind of deconstruct this. I'm going to build this back piece first, and then probably the base, and then finally add in this triangular wedge. Okay. So starting with the back piece, if we're drawing just that shadow is going to kind of come up, over, down, and back. Okay, how far does it go? It goes pretty far because we've got that low sun angle. So it's going to go all the way out here. Looks like I'm on the wrong layer again. Okay, so this piece is going to come up and to the right. It's going to go up there. Let me go ahead and outline that for you. Start from here, go to here, there. We're going to go perpendicularly over to this point. You know, I forgot to draw the guideline there, but it's wherever this horizontal line intersects. All right, so we can go ahead and hit that intersection and then finish that back up to the corner and finish that section. Okay, so let's see what that shadow looks like. Right, it would look like this. And then if you filled it in, which I don't want to right now, it would look like this. Okay. All right, that's just the bottom section, sorry, this back section. Now let's do this kind of base piece. It's much lower, so it's going to extend to this point right here, right? As we did this point down right there. Right. So you can see I don't need to worry about what the shadow is like behind there because it's all going to be hidden in this tall part. So all I need is this part right here. Right, so I'm going to outline that. All right. All right, there's one more piece that we need to add to our shadows, and that's this wedge piece in the center. All right, right here, as it falls on the object in both the plan view and this front elevation view. I kind of needed a 3D sketch to really get a hold of what's going on here. So let's take a look. All right, here we're looking at kind of this wedge piece, right? I've drawn right here, and I've simplified. Instead of all of these blocks here and here, we've just got it kind of sitting on the ground, all right, with a wall behind it. And we know that this point right here is going to cast a shadow at that what's that called? The altitude angle, all right? Until it hits this new ground, we'll call that, all right? So, and I've drawn that here, okay. Whatever that angle is, it's gonna come here and hit. And then that's, and then we'll add in this other piece, right? Because our block comes and sits here, goes out, right? It sits here. Here's that block. And where does it go? Right here, down. Okay, so the shadow on the back piece is just going to be this area right here. Notice it's not a full triangle, all right, because it gets cut off as the block stops. Now in the plan view, all right, this angle is not actually going to be our azimuth angle because it's the cast shadow of this angular piece, right? It's not straight. If it were a straight piece right here, then absolutely we could get that azimuth angle and we could do it, but it's not, all right? So instead, what we're going to do, and I'm going to change colors here, is pretend to extend down to the ground. All right, so we had this light, and now we're going to go further down to this level, right, the lower level. And so this is going to continue to extend, all right, until we intersect, right? And on the ground, we can then connect these angles. Right? And it's going to go like this. Okay. So this is going to be a different angle, and it's going to be a piece just like this. Okay. Let's go over to AutoCAD and draw this far less messy, all right, than my mouse sketches. So here we go. All right, so what I've done here in the elevation view, all right, we have our altitude angle. All right, I just copied this right over. And we're just going to fill that in. That is our shadow. That one's the easier one. But then we have this shadow piece on the ground right here. All right. And so what we did was extend this all the way until it hits the ground. Take that back. All right. And then we connected the dots between this piece. Honestly, it's this one on the ground. It's that bit right there. All right. And all the way over here, and that got us that different angle. I put the azimuth angle in here just so you see that it is not the same. All right. And so that's going to connect right here. And we will have this shadow as well as this little angular shadow right here. Okay. All right. And that is the shadow solution for this block. All right, I'm going to do one more of these from your worksheet and then leave the rest as an exercise for the student. So taking a look at this exercise here, we have a top elevation that just looks like 3 zones or categories. We've got a front one that is just completely blank, so we're just looking at that edge here. And we've got kind of a U shape on the right-hand side with a piece here that goes all the way up to the top. So what we've got is an inclined plane in the center that goes from this level up to that level. All right. And what is missing on this drawing is the dashed line. So let's go ahead and put that in. It's going to go from here to here. All right. Turn that into a dashed line. And delete that. Okay, so that's what this is going to look like. And then we are interested in the altitude and azimuth for June 21st at 10 a.m. Let's go take a look at our sun diagram. And we've got June up here along at the top. We've got 10 a.m. right about there. Okay, so reading the altitude, we see about 60 degrees. Okay, and reading the azimuth, we've got, what do we say, like 108, something like that. Could be closer to 110. I'm going to go with 108. Okay. All right, are we ready? Here we are in AutoCAD so that we can draw it accurately. And we're interested in this piece right here that we've already been talking about with this U shape and this hidden line right here. And we've got an azimuth of 108 degrees from north, which is this angle right here, and an altitude of 60 degrees up from the horizon. Okay. Now, those of you drawing from home or drawing by hand, I should say, how do you get that 108 degrees? All right. Hopefully you were there in class where I showed you. You're going to take your piece of paper. You're going to place the compass on that piece of paper. You're going to turn both the compass and your paper that you're drawing on until the line that you want, that 108 degrees, lines up with your T-square. All right. Tape it down, take the compass out. Now you can draw lines, as many lines as you like at that particular angle. All right, and then you will pick it up and rotate it back when you're done with that particular angle. All right, as usual, we're going to start with the azimuth angle on the plan. And it looks like our shadow is going to go up and to the left. All right, so we'll be interested in this altitude angle. And let's get started here. Okay, so what that shadow is going to look like, let's cast guidelines from these 2 points. Okay, and let's make us some shadow borders. It's going to come from here to here, and then come across horizontally to there. Okay, and now we are tracing this edge right here, so it's going to come straight down to there. Okay, but it actually comes all the way down because this is a straight edge for all of that. Okay, and then back to here. All right, so that is a pretty straightforward, just solid block shadow. Okay. And you're like, woohoo, we're done already. Not quite. All right. Because this block right here, this piece, is going to cast a shadow into this wedge void in the middle. All right. And that shadow is going to look something like this, right in here. Okay. So let's figure out how to do that. All right, so here's my lovely 3D sketch. This one, it really made more sense to use an elevation oblique. So, by the way, I'm sketching with my mouse, all right? So no shade. So what we've got here is kind of this flat plane, and then this sloping plane, and then this in the elevation oblique, this line right here does not exist. That line. All right. So the sun is coming in kind of this direction, right? And so what we're going to get is this face here in shade, right? In shade, and we're not going to see that in our multi-view. And then we're going to get a shadow from this piece falling into the sloped plane. And that's what we're going to see in both the right-hand view and the top view. And that shadow is going to, let me switch to another color here. That shadow is going to connect here. It's going to connect here. All right, so we've got 2 points that we know of. So the question is, what does this piece do? And let me give you a little hint, a little preview. It's going to come this way at the azimuth angle. All right, until it hits a particular height, and then it's going to turn and go back that way. All right, so that's kind of the preview of what that shadow is going to look like. Now let's go draw it accurately. Okay, here we are back in AutoCAD. First, let's draw that azimuth angle. All right, and so on the plan, It's this one, and it's going to be right here. Okay. Now I swear I did not choose that 108 angle to exactly hit. that was pure serendipity. So you in your hand drafting would just draw from here to there. All right, but let's say it didn't hit. Let's say there was a significant gap here. What we would do is transfer that measurement, right, by building our 45-degree transfer line. All right, and then that would come down here. All right, and so we're interested in this point right there. And so we would connect here to there. Okay. Just realizing that those should have all been white guidelines. Okay. So now the question is, flip back to our other picture, right? That was this line that we just drew. Okay. And it connected like here-ish. Kind of not. All right. So how do we get the other line? Okay. Coming back to this one, what we're interested in is in the front view, the shadow of this corner and where it hits on this dashed line. So I'm going to go ahead and take that across and across. Okay. And so in the plan view, that was the intersection we're talking about. You're going to connect that corner to here, right? And then moving to our shadow borders, let's go ahead and draw that shadow in the plan view. All right. And then in your elevation view, you would connect this edge to here. And let's draw those shadow borders. All right. And that's what you're going to see for the shadows for this exercise. Thanks, everyone.